Hi everyone, thanks for joining me today for Up Close with Georgia O'Keeffe. We're going to be using oil pastels, and I'm Shelly, and I am working with the Route 66 Arts Alliance, so thank you to them. Thank you to the town of Edgewood for helping us get the materials out to you, and thank you so much to the Moriarty Edgewood School District. You guys are awesome. So yeah, I'm Shelly, I'm an artist, I'm an art educator, I'm a mom, I live up here in East Mountain, so yeah, thanks again for joining. We're gonna have a lot of fun. This is a project that can be done with all ages. We just use color and paper and pencil. So we're gonna start by just making sure you have your plastic put down because oil pastels do get a little messy, a little crumbly, but that's okay. And so we're gonna tape that down if you haven't already. And then we're just going to grab, if you have a couple pieces of scratch paper, like the smaller pieces of paper, your copy size paper for our thumbnail sketches, and then the larger piece of paper, which is super special, so keep that to the side at first, and your oil pastels. And then also a pencil. And I grabbed some Q-tips, some cotton swabs. Also important, I think, is something to wipe your hands. I was practicing a little bit, so you can see if that bothers you, but it's just kind of nice to wipe your hands while you're working because it tends to smudge around. But ideally, we're going to cover the whole page, so that doesn't really matter if you get smudges on your paper to begin with. And what else? Let's get started. So hopefully you have heard of Georgia O'Keeffe already, but if you haven't, she died in New Mexico in the 1980s, and she lived to be almost 100. So amazing. And she spent a lot of time in nature and doing what she really loved to do. And one of her quotes was, "Take time to look." So that's what we're going to be doing, is we're going to be looking closely at flowers. That was one of her main themes. She did other themes, but that was one of the big things that she really looked at and studied and did really close up drawings and paintings of. So I'm just going to encourage you, if you have flowers growing around outside, wildflowers that are native to New Mexico, or you have planted them, ask your parents to see if you can maybe take a clipping of one and then bring it inside and put it in a little pot, make a little bouquet. So you can do that. I chose to use one of my favorite books, which is about the flowers that are growing right here in the mountains where we live. This is Wildflowers of Northern and Central Mountains of New Mexico. And it's super cool. It's coded by like the colors. So anyways, you can find pictures of flowers hopefully pretty easily. And then I am going to do this Indian blanket because I really like how the colors radiate out from the center. So find a flower, an image of a flower, or an actual flower that is really inspiring to you. And yeah, I'm going to show you two. Now, I went to the library. I'm super stoked that Harris Library, East Mountain Library, opened up a couple weeks or last week. So I went and got a couple books on Georgia O'Keeffe. These are just stories about her life. But you can see here, look, she's so beautiful. And she lived in Abiquiu, and that's where she was living when she passed away. If you haven't been there, awesome day trip from where we live. Here's her standing in front of one of her sculptures. She also started to do sculptures later in her life. So yeah, that's cool how like drawing and painting can bring you into other genres of art. And then this one is specific. I've taken this book out like a million times from the library, but this is specific to New Mexico because she did live in other places, but you can go to Abiquiu and see these mountains and the lakes and everything, Abiquiu Lake that she painted, and it's like you're looking at her art while you're driving through towards Ghost Ranch, where she also had a studio. But I'm going to show you a couple close-ups, and then we're going to get started. This is kind of what we're going for today, are close-ups of flowers. And as you can see, there's just two flowers here, and it kind of merges, her work can merge in between representation and abstract. And we'll talk about that a little bit while we're working. This one is a little bit more abstracted. I really like the color. She just really, it looks like she has such a fun time with the colors and the shapes. So that's what we're going to be looking at. I'll just show you one more. This is the calla lilies. And so you can see, like, I don't know if you know the word undulating, but this is what I think of when I see her work. It's like when forms are coming in and out. It's kind of like folds in a blanket. Deep caverns, and then things coming out closer. So even though the flower has not a very deep space, she makes it look like it has a very deep space by the way that she's using the color and that blending of the colors. So that's what we're gonna get to. So yeah, get your space ready, and we're gonna start by doing some thumbnail sketches. So what is a thumbnail sketch? Tiny little sketches like the size of your thumb, and they're things that we don't spend a lot of time on. It's just generating ideas to get your composition. Because as you saw with some of her pieces, they're very centralized, but sometimes they're coming off of the composition a little bit. So we're gonna go ahead and get our scrap piece of paper, and you're going to make little boxes on it. So the boxes are just the size, and you can decide, let's look at the shape of your page. There is, maybe you already know this, but when your page is long ways, that's called landscape. When your page is, so this would be landscape, and then this would be portrait. So you can decide which way you want to do that, and that's going to determine your composition. So make your squares on your page, or they're actually rectangles. So draw those out. Just take time to maybe do 2 or 3. And maybe you want to try 1 or 2 portrait or 1 landscape. So just making your rectangles. So I have my little drawings in here already, but you'll just be putting little blank rectangles on your page. Once you do that, we're going to look at our, so here's the thing that I was working off of. But I'm going to change my composition. I'm not going to do it exactly. So I'm actually going to do a composition that has 2 flowers in it. So looking at your composition, and you can even make a little rectangle if you're looking at your actual flower and kind of look through it to frame it and see how you want it to be. That's a little trick that artists use. So once you kind of have the idea, then you're just going to take 1 minute to sketch each one out. So just take time right now. If you want, you can pause the video and come back while you're just working out your composition. And just remember, try blowing it up so that it's going to be coming off of the edges. Just like she did, like blowing something up, looking really closely at it. So just join me back after you're finished doing your thumbnail sketches. Okay, welcome back. So yeah, I showed you this before, but I'm going to just show you a little bit more in detail how I just laid out my composition. And so then I'm going to choose which one of these do I want to go forward with, or even part of one. And so I'm actually going to, and you can go right on top of it. So I actually am going to draw on top of my thumbnail sketch to really find the one that I really want to go for. So mine is similar to this, and you can see how simple this drawing is, but there's going to be a big flower down here that's going to be kind of my central, and then the other flower is coming off the edge up in the corner. So once you have that, maybe think about, you can quickly add a little color onto it. So looking at here, I'm just going to, and now here's the fun part, you can start using your oil pastels. So your oil pastels are made out of oil, so they're smudgy and smeary. So you're gonna feel that really cool texture if you haven't used that before. It's kind of like buttery. That's what I always think of. So I'm just gonna go around and quickly just sketch, same like I did with my thumbnail sketch. I'm just popping some color. And then also one thing to think about is what color are you gonna put in the background? If we look at one of her paintings, let's see, where's that purple one? So the color in the background, I can't find the one I'm looking for. But well, we'll just look at a different one. So this one, she just did like the red orange all the way out to the edges. So you think about how is your flower going to continue to the edges? So that one went red all the way, and then we'll look at this one which is the same type of flower, but the composition is different. And here she uses the light green and the white to take it out to the edges. And so that's creating some contrast with this black in the middle, the red, and then it's lighter on the outside. I think I'm gonna put my color darker in the back, and then the flowers are gonna pop out. And again, it doesn't have to be totally realistic. So I'm just gonna try that out. Here I put just some pops of yellow on my thumbnail sketch. And do you know what the complementary color of yellow is? Was that you thinking? It's purple. So when you put a complementary colors right next to each other, it does something special with our eyes. It really makes those colors vibrate. And so you can see here when I'm just putting the purple, and here's a good time too, when we're experimenting on our thumbnail sketches, is to try layering the colors. Like you can see here, I put green, and then I put a little purple on top of it. So just take another couple minutes if you wanna pause and just experiment. Maybe you even go on the side right here and you experiment by putting red or orange and try putting yellow on top of it and try fading it out. So yeah, just take some time playing around with, so you can see I put orange and then I'm fading it into yellow. Maybe try, if you do have your Q-tip, just try using, what does the Q-tip do? Try using your finger, smearing it out. And this is a chance to get to know how the material works before we bring it onto our final piece. So go ahead, pause, take a couple minutes to play around with the color scheme and just the technique of using the oil pastels, and I'll meet you back here in a couple minutes. Welcome back. Hopefully you had some fun doing that. Personally, when I start using my oil pastels, I will start to peel them off. It depends. I'm kind of a more dive in, get messy type of artist. So I will peel it off. I will even break it. If you're sharing these with your sisters or brothers, you might want to ask them how they feel about that. But I break mine off so that I can do this technique where you're going to rub this. So what we're going to do before we start having super duper fun with our pastels is we're going to lay out the composition on the large piece of paper. So get your big piece of paper, back to the pencil, and you can see here I sketched mine out. And you can see how there's little tidbits of the oil pastel on it, and that's okay because it's going to get covered up because this oil pastel is very thick. So lay out your composition. And you don't have to put a lot of detail. As you can see, I just kind of said, where is the middle of my flower gonna be and how is it gonna radiate out? You can see how I'm bringing it off the edges over here and then the other one up here. So just, again, get your pencil, you can pause again and draw out your sketch of your flower. And welcome back. So now we're gonna start drawing on our paper. I recommend starting in the middle. So what color is the middle where the pistil and the stamen of the flower is? The reproductive organs of the flower are in the center of the flower generally. So what am I doing? I'm gonna use, and it's good to think relationally the whole time when you're making art, particularly, you know, when you're building your composition with color. So I'm gonna start with a dark, and this is where the petals are meeting the middle of the flower. And as you can see, I'm working quickly, or it's more just like I'm just laying the color down. And then my next color, I'm gonna do red, but whatever the color is, now we're gonna start doing our blending. Can you guys see this? Okay, so then I'm gonna take my red, and you can just block in big parts of color to begin with. So I'm taking my red, I'm holding the paper down because if you're getting into it like me, your paper might move around. So I'm blocking in the center, and we'll go back and do some details. And then I'm gonna do the petals radiating out. And so here I'm gonna use this kind of coral beautiful color, and I'm just bringing it out. And then, yeah, you can experiment again with peeling the paper off, breaking it into a smaller nub. And just when you're using your oil pastel, you're using your stroke in the way that the shape of the flower is actually happening. So instead of going like back and forth for a petal, since the petal is long and radiating out, I'm using those long strokes to go out, and that's going to give it that wow, like radiating pop. So I'm just blocking that in. And then on the tip of the Indian blanket, it's yellow. And so here's a part where I'm going to show you a little detail about creating the edge, that area where the foreground, which is the flower, and the background meet, which is going to make the flower pop out. And so some of the petals, it depends on how you're doing it, but when their petals are overlapping and there's that space, then that's where you want to have a lighter color meeting a darker color. So here I have my yellow, and then I'm going to put purple underneath. And so this is a place where, or anywhere in your drawing, you can practice that layering, but I actually want it to be green in the background, but instead of just putting green, I'm going to put the purple, because that's like a little sneaky trick to put this complementary color right next to its complement. So yellow and purple right next to each other, and you can see, and then you can also kind of define the edge. So if the petal has, no petal is like just, lots of petals have little indentations in them, maybe a little bug nibbled on it from the weather. And so you can really catch that detail when you outline the petal. So I did my purple, and now I'm gonna do some green over it, and let's see what's gonna happen. So you get this really like rich green, and whatever color you're layering, I just encourage you to, sometimes we're just like, oh, the yellow already exists, so I'm just using yellow. But you can mix your own yellow even with pastels. So here I'm mixing my own green by putting purple underneath it. And you can see how that really starts to pop. And then I'll just go over a couple more things, and then you'll just be able to dive in and finish off your flower. But here's something that's fun, is a pencil. So you can go back into your drawing with a pencil. So I'm going back in here in the middle and putting in some details where, again, the pistil and the stamen are together. Most flowers have the male and the female parts, but some of them don't in the same flower, which is pretty interesting. But anyways, you can go back in and do some detail with your pencil. And I'll do just an example of some detail in the petals. Now, you don't have to use your pencil if you don't like that graphite in there. It's hard for me to use one material because I'm a mixed media artist, so I always jump in there and mix it up a little bit. But you can see there I put some lines in the petal, the detail up here. And so, I'm just going to encourage you now to continue with your drawing, filling up the whole page. And listen, you don't have to finish it all. It's a lot. It can be a lot to fill the whole page, but just take your time. You can finish it now or bring it back tomorrow or the next day. And I just wanted to show you, I'm sure you see over here, still, I didn't finish this whole one and I worked on it. So I'm gonna go back to it and finish it over here. But just continue across your page, filling it, and then taking breaks whenever you need it. And remember, wiping your hands. And just thank you so much for joining us today. And we hope to see you. And we hope to see your artwork. Please have someone or take the picture yourself and post it on our Facebook page, Route 66 Arts Alliance. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you at some of our next workshops.